Moving forward of their history in 1491, the Germanic tribe then invades the Celts. They came into an island where once was where the Romans lived, and they slaughtered the Celts who were living there. But then there are still some of the Celts who survived this invasion. But then they are called as Walha, that means foreigner or slave. Living as a Walha, these Celts categorized as a second-class citizen. In order to rank up or to be a first-class citizen, they need to adapt to the culture and language of the Germanic tribe. And ladies and gentlemen, I would say that this is how the Germanic tribe widened their language and culture. As this happened, the Celts language has rarely been used and almost faced extinction. But then there are still some few words from Celts language that survive in our current era. For example, the word crag, which means rock, and the word chombi, which means deep valley. Other than that, these survived words from Celts language also can be seen used in some places name. For example, the word Hereford, which means peak, and the word Cairn in Carlisle, which means fortified places. Fortified places. At the end of 6th century, the Germanic tribe conquered half of the Britain. They then divide the kingdom and use the language that they brought to name the places. In our current era, we can see that there are certain modern places named that use the language that they brought. For instance, the places named with the word ing, ton, and ham are few examples where they use the language that brought by the Germanic tribe. The word ing means people of, meanwhile the word ton means enclosure or village, and the word ham means farm. The Germanic tribe spoke their own dialect and then they merged into the Old English. The English language that we are currently using, most of the words came from the Old English. For instance, the noun, the preposition, the number, and the verbs all came from the Old English. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll pass the next slide to the next presenter. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad SHAHRIZAL and I will presenting Christian influence / Latin and Danes invasion / Old Norse language that brought to the advancement in English language under the topic of birth of a language. So with further ado, let's jump down. Let me check on this first. Okay. So in 597, priest Saint Augustine from Rome led a mission to Kent in England, while the Irishmen of Celtic led their own mission at North. They are bringing the international language for Christianity, which I believe by all Christians for being the true and holy language. The language that have been spoken around is Latin. So the priests brought words such as altera, meaning altar, mass, and monks into the English language. Now we move to one of the most famous literature evidence that show advancement in English language, which was Beowulf poem. So the Beowulf poem is written sometime between mid-7th to end of 10th century by an identified author, and the first great poem in English language. It tells the story of a glory day of Germanic tribes that epitomized by the name of Beowulf. It showcases the capability of the language to tell a story through the depiction of the Bel's enemy, which was called the monster. At this time, English a fully developed poetic language, which capable of great elaboration. They're capable of great telling even for indicative nature. So it can make up extra language throughout the word compounding, such as gleewood, harp, bone house, body, war board, shield. Beowulf is written to be read aloud as it was an epic poem for the peasants. Next, it's the runes. Here in the picture we can see types of runes which were used as a form of communication back in the day. This type of communication has not been used ever since in modern English, but merely as a traditional form of writing. But it's still used in the Norse somewhere there. Now, all England has been invaded by the Vikings, also known as the Danes. They came here bringing menace and wars. They destroy most of the churches, sack and burn them, burn all the books. So 70 years after that, a new savior arises. We can see in the slide here, King Alfred, dubbed by the Victorian as the Great. He became a king after the Danes attack and finally able to sign a treaty with the Danes, creating border of south and north of all England, while the Old England split into two, the north being controlled by the Danes and the south being controlled by King Alfred. So with this treaty, it brought some business, which specifically trading and intermarriage. So the communities mix, and the Danes brought their own language, their own words into the English language, creating new words. So we can see in the first one is the Old Norse language. We can see there are tons of words they brought from the Dance language into the English language. So the first one is beck, which meaning stream, garth, meaning paddock, craft, height, sick, score, sky, skive, anger, bull, neck, root, knife, skull, they, them, there. We can see all of these words came from the Old Norse language brought by the Vikings into the English language. Now we see on the Dance language. So the Dance language, the first one is by, means farm. This specifically for a place. So in England, there is a place called Grimsby Town. So this would mean that this place is a Grimm's farm. Grimm's farm, since the by brought by the Dance language into the English language, that means farm. The second one is the second logo there, Scunthorpe. Thorpe means village. So this could mean that it's a Scone village. Scone village, yeah. And the last but not least is the adding son. Is simply adding to the father's son. So we can see nowadays in England they have many names such as Henderson, Michelson. The word son there is simply adding to the father's son. They are the sons of their fathers. With that further ado, I pass the torch to the next presenter, and thank you for listening my presentation. Thank you, and assalamualaikum.
Okay, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Daniel bin Dalam, and I'm going to continue to the part after the Danes invasion. This is the part where Alfred the Great undertake a movement to exalt the English language. So, post-Danish invasion, after the Danes invasion, the spoken language, which is English, survived, but literacy among those under King Alfred's rule was in severe jeopardy. Nobody can read, only a few handful people can read English, but all of them can still speak the old English. So, King Alfred, he is very religious, and being a man of unwavering faith, King Alfred sought to further educate his people on the religion. So how does this connect to him bringing back literacy of Old English among his citizens? How does him wanting to educate his people on the religion led to Englishmen exalted? Okay, so we're gonna go to that part, but first we need to know how he sought to educate his people. Okay, so King Alfred, he was seeking to educate clergies and the masses with priests that can read Latin, but he was only able to find a handful of literate priests, and thus King Alfred took it upon himself to teach the Bible's teaching to clergies. He, however, taught them in English, Old English to be exact, but this, in a way, in an indirect way, exalted the language standing, and he then realized it was easier this way. It was easier to teach people about the religion if it was in a spoken language, that if it was in a language that they spoke. He then continued with that strategy as he makes copies of books on Christianity in English for the masses. So from him being want to teach about religion, he then continued on teaching his religion, Christianity, by translating it to English, in which way have indirectly ensured the survival of literacy among his people. So this was the biggest achievement of his reign, which earns him the title Great. His endeavor in spreading the teachings of Christianity, which accidentally led him to his greatest achievement, which is restoring literacy of the masses and exalting English to new heights. Without him, we can be 90% sure that English may not have become what it is today. So that will be the end of my part. It will be continued by the next presenter. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Ariff bin Aziz, and for my part, I will be talking about the Norman invasion and the coming of Old French language into the English language. So there are three main points of discussion for my presentation. The first being events during Norman invasion and reign. Second, the effects of Norman invasion to English language. And lastly is words introduced into the English language. So how do the Old French language came into the English land? Well, we must first learn about William, Duke of Normandy, rises to the throne. During that time, King Edward the Confessor was England's king, and King Edward has appointed William as his successor. But during King Edward's death, his wife's brother Harold usurped the throne from William. This angered him so greatly that William launched an invasion in Hastings and managed to defeat Harold, which led to the latter death. And when William rose to the throne, Harold became the last English-speaking rulers for 3 centuries in England. Moving on is the effects of Norman invasion to English language. 20 years in his reign, William asked his men to survey the land, and after the survey, he made sure that the wealth of England has been concentrated. And during that time, the native ruling class has been eliminated, has been banished and disinherited. And half of the country were under only 190 men, and the 190 men is under 11 men. And none of the rulers or none of the people with status during that time spoke English. During that time, French and Latin were the preferred language or the high variety in England. While English language are still being spoken, it is merely being used by peasants or slaves. With this dominance of French and Latin language, written English became rare and scarce around the country. Okay, since we are talking about Norman's language, we should know that what is the Norman's language? Well, Norman's language is Old French and it has a root in Latin language. And since the Normans has been the ruler of the country, well, French became the language that built the architecture of the new social order. And from there come the words like crown, throne, court, duke, and baron. And also, since they are also the rulers, they also make the laws. So words such as felony, arrest, justice, acquit, and judge has been introduced into the English language. And in today's time, we can see that about 500 words just from food and cooking came from French, like salmon, vinegar, oyster, and mackerel. So, estimated in 3 centuries after the conquest, over 10,000 French words had entered the English language. In conclusion, the English language has came from a warlike Germanic tribe and has been influenced by the rise of Christianity, which introduced the Latin script. Then, the Vikings came to England bringing the Old Norse language, which highly influenced the restructuring of Old English. Furthermore, Old English had been taken to new heights thanks to King Alfred's efforts to improve literacy and increasing the numbers of English written texts to be spread all over the country, and especially the importance of the translation of Pope Gregory's pastoral care. And lastly, Old English had been buried after the invasion of the Normans, which introduced the Old French language to England. That's all from us. Thank you.